Okay, so this is paragraph 7 and paragraph 8. The content of these paragraphs, these two paragraphs, are about wind energy. And again, we're looking at what are the advantages and or disadvantages of each source of energy. So here we go. Wind is another important source of energy. It is used all over the world and is one of the oldest forms of energy used by man. Wind is formed by the heating of the Earth's surface. As the surface of the Earth heats up, the air above the Earth heats up, becomes lighter, and begins to rise. As it rises, cooler, heavier air moves in to take its place. This movement of air creates wind. Do you think there is enough wind power outside your school to build a windmill and to power the windmill and to bring power into the school? That's something worth looking at. So let's get green colored pencil. This is important. As the surface of the Earth heats up, so as the ground absorbs energy, the air above the Earth, above the ground, heats up. So the ground gets warm and starts heating the air up. It becomes lighter and begins to rise. As the wind rises, cooler, heavier air moves in to take its place. This movement of air creates wind. So you guys, we're going to also take our blue colored pencil and we're going to like double underline this because this is huge. This idea about how the sun heats up the ground heats up the air heats up higher and higher up into the atmosphere, and that as that warm air rises, cool air sinks and moves in underneath it, and we have what we call wind. It's also called convection, and we'll look at convection a little bit later. But this idea about how wind is created, and it's wind is generated and created because the Earth is heated unevenly by the sun. This is an important concept that we'll look at and we'll study a little bit later. So, paragraph 8. Again, we're going to circle advantages, and we're going to circle disadvantages, and then we're going to go get our blue colored pencil. There are a number of advantages to using wind as an energy source. Here's one. Wind energy is easily captured by windmills or turbines and transformed into mechanical energy. So that's the first really significant advantage about wind. It's very easy to put something up in the wind, and the wind blows and it moves the blades of a windmill, which are connected to a wind turbine. And I have a picture I'll show you in just a moment. So, also, windmills can also be used to pump water for irrigation or to grind grain or to generate electricity. And boy, here's an important one. Generate electricity. I like that idea because we love electricity. Humans are in love with electricity. And then finally, so third, it can be used for a variety of, second, it can be used for a variety of sources. And third, wind energy is also renewable and available on a perpetual or ongoing basis. This means always available. Mr. Woods, what if the wind's not blowing? Okay, but many days the wind is blowing. And whenever the wind is blowing, it's available. So, because wind is inexpensive and pollution-free, wind is one of the fastest growing energy sources on Earth. So, we also have a fourth reason here. It's clean. It's clean. And it's inexpensive. As a matter of fact, it's free. Now, the hardware to get it working is not free. But now there's one disadvantage. And that one disadvantage is a few locations, actually only a few locations, have steady winds available all the time. So in those locations, they are really great locations to have wind turbines located. For example, on the top of a ridge, or out in the plains, down in Texas, where you have huge flat areas where there's no obstructions, no mountains, no hills, and the wind just blows through, like in the prairies in the Midwest. Those are good areas because the wind consistently blows there. Where there's a lot of terrain irregularities because of geographical features, those are sometimes more difficult places to have wind turbine. If you have not marked your pages, please go ahead and do so right now. In fact, pause this video and get your pages marked because I'm going to take all the ink off, and then we're going to take a look at one slide that I have before we go. Here you have a slide, a diagram that shows a couple of windmills and how the wind, how the electricity actually is managed that wind turbines produce. So I won't go through each step here. You can take a look at it. We'll actually talk about these in class when we're doing hands-on with wind turbines. But basically, the electricity that's produced by the wind turbines gets treated. Okay, so it's not the way we want it when we first get it out of a wind turbine. So we ramp up the voltage in it by using transformers and also by using substations to change the amount of voltage, to change the voltage of energy that's coming out of that we're getting from the wind turbines before it goes out onto the grid. Because once it goes out onto the grid, it needs to be almost ready for households and businesses to use. We can reduce the voltages when it's out on the grid through local substations, which will use transformers to damp the energy down, to damp the voltages down to where we can use them in our homes and businesses. So, okay, so let's move on to paragraph 9.